So my name's Rachel Ashwell. Some people call me the Shabby Chic Lady. It's a brand that I founded in 1989, so that's 36 years ago now. And what started off as actually slipcovers or loose-covered furniture really became a philosophy and a lifestyle. It's very deeply rooted in my values, in my aesthetics, in a very gentle, beautiful, comfortable life of shabby chic. I've spent most of my adult life, well over 40 years, in Los Angeles, and I loved it. I had my children there, so that's where shabby chic was born, and it's been a wonderful experience. But somewhere deep in my soul was missing the British culture. So about 5 years ago, I decided to just explore. I didn't pack up shop in Los Angeles, but just explore, what's England about now? Didn't go back to London, which is specifically where I was from. So I knew that I wanted to be in the countryside. I had a couple of friends, Pearl Lowe being one of them. So I did a little bit of exploration. I rented somewhere for a while and eventually came across this property. I wasn't sure whether it was a little big for me, but I completely fell in love with it. So I thought, you know what, nothing has to last forever, let's experience it. It was in pretty good shape when I found it, but it definitely was welcoming of my decorative style. I really wanted to decorate it freshly and clean and luxuriously, but sympathetically to kind of what it might have been like way back when. So one of the reasons, interestingly enough, that I decided to try out what it would be like living in the English countryside was after 40 years of California, I kind of had a lot of blue skies. So the idea of having those seasons again to me was something that was very appealing. And actually, in a certain way, I felt I needed it. I'm a creative person and I find the rhythm of the seasons, blossoming, transitioning, having the ability and the excuse to be all cozy. So staying in that cozy moment, the winter months, a lot of people consider them, they're dark, they're short, they're cold, they're wet, but they're the perfect time for a fire and a hot chocolate and some music. And just to be inward, which I think is as valuable an experience as blossoming. So I'm not studied in a classroom in anything. I consider myself that I really have been given this gift of being able to find beauty, whether it's in a specific time-worn piece of junk at the flea market, or whether it's something that I create. So above everything else, I consider myself romantic. And that can be just the environment that I create, actually. And of course, living in California for 40 years, where it's mostly quite warm, I have a fireplace, but it doesn't really need to function. So when I knew I was going to have this beautiful home with all these fireplaces, that was something I wanted to explore. I've never really been around working fireplaces barely my whole life. And so as I was deciding whether I wanted to deal with the actual production of making a fire, I came across Charnwood stoves. We discussed all the different options and models. This fireplace is kind of on the smaller side. This is my office. It's where I spent a lot of time, so I wanted something easy that I could just have the beautiful romance of it as well as the warmth, because it gets pretty chilly in here. So we discussed all the different options. In this particular instance, I decided on the almond color, and it's called the Cranmore. I absolutely love it. It's really low maintenance. I mean, it's funny because the tagline I often use about my brand is beauty, comfort, function, and it satisfies all those qualities. So in my snug, which has this most handsome, tremendous fireplace, quite massive, that would have been a major undertaking to build a fire every time I wanted a fire in there. So again, deciding which one was the right scale and the aesthetic, because it's a small scale room even though it's got this really large fireplace. So we decided on a C5. It blends into the room when the wood burner isn't functioning, but when it's functioning, it's just a symphony. So in the guest house, which has kind of like a modern country element to it, but I was really focusing on beautiful textures, more just about the building itself, which used to be the original dairy barn on the property. So in this space, I decided on the Air 7 in pewter, which I think has a nice balance of kind of feeling a little bit industrial, but certainly with my overstuffed, comfortable sofas and the chandelier, it just all ties in quite beautifully. And once again, very easy to use. I think what's beautiful about a fire, there's no mechanics to it. There's no remotes. It's just this simple form. When you're trying to create like an environment for yourself that feels balanced and uncomplicated, even in my kitchen, for example, my chandelier is true candlelight. You know, I think the more you can have that's really quite simple, so we can put those remotes away and just light a match. I think that just brings down the stress, brings down complexities, and it's quite beautiful. So it sounds a bit like a cliche, fireplace going, dog lying in front of it. How beautiful is it that you can actually live that fantasy? And you may have noticed that George started off sitting in the chair. Sometimes it gets a little warm because this room is toasty now. So he'll come back shortly. But nevertheless, that beautiful sight and the emotion that brings of a pet in front of a fire, it's heaven.